all can hear me. Yes. So my name is Annam and we are from Four Colors Technology. We have a booth on the last side, on the last aisle from here, so please visit us there. Today we wanted to present our experiences in the PLM operations and support area. So we as a company, we come from the trenches. We have done a lot of automation, support, development, implementation stuff. And as many of you might already know, we do a lot of administrative work, operations, and support side tasks to keep a PLM system running. So many of these pieces are automated in bits and pieces today, actually. So here we just wanted to cover up the whole spectrum from not from development, but from deployment to testing to support, as well as for the knowledge management side, actually. What all can we automate in what aspects of it? And what we as a company are trying to do is trying to bring all of this under one umbrella, actually. So it is it's a work in development, but we are trying to get all of these things under one umbrella. So quickly, before we go into the topic, we'll cover about the company, about us, actually, a quick slide. So we got established in 2015. We have 100+ team members, a very niche player in the CAD PLM market, and we pride ourselves in a very highly technical team. And you will see this in many of the conversations and many of the projects we do, actually. So what do? We develop PLM CAD tools, implementations, administration, support, testing, and automation. Our expertise is in automotive, aerospace, defense areas, and we are located in USA, Canada, and India, actually. So just a quick overview there. On the PLM practice side, I don't want to go into too much details, actually, but we do, as I covered, development, implementation, and support, and different types of applications we do support, actually. So just want to stay here for a minute, actually. We have developed multiple tools for the PLM CAD landscape. So one is the PLM chatbot, which we'll cover in the tool. Actually, today there is an enterprise data hub for supplier data collaboration, a test automation framework for your testing, for automating your test cases, and PLM Autopilot is primarily today's conversation, actually, which we are trying to bring up most of the automation things under one umbrella. So when we talk about PLM, we develop, actually, obviously, we get the systems, we develop our customizations, configurations. We have to deploy it, we have to test it, we have to monitor it, and we have to support it. So manage, monitor, and support, actually. And all of this ties into the knowledge scape, actually. There are knowledge documentations and everything, and that ties into this whole landscape of manage, monitor, and support. And we'll talk about the knowledge management also here. So the first side is server-side deployments for any Team Center implementations. So you would have heard DevOps for quite a few years now. And DevOps for Team Center is a bit tricky. It's not as straightforward as other web applications are, even though the AWC is one part of it. So you can sort of completely automate the Team Center deployment side, actually, server-side deployments, either using Siemens tools or using your own custom tools. Many companies have done that, actually. So here, if you tie it up into your CI/CD process, into your DevOps process, it becomes much more better, actually. And you tie it into your automation test suites for sanity testing, it becomes still better. Second is the client deployments. Client deployments is almost always a challenge, and many companies are trying to solve it through SCCM models or manage custom scripts. So there is we do have a solution where you can centralize the complete client application management, where you can build dependencies on different softwares, on different application levels, on different things, and you can deploy it from a single location, actually, all over the world. It's a single, you control your complete client deployments from one location, and you can mark it as an absolute necessity, an upgrade or update, or a preferred update. So the user has a choice to either say no to a preferred update, or if it's a necessity update, he has to take the update and move ahead with it when he starts applications. So this way you completely control how the client installations are managed, as well as there is a client extension to a chatbot. We'll talk about it to manage the client issues, actually, to analyze your client systems and manage your client issues from one central location. So one of the biggest things on the managed side of it is handle the onboarding, offboarding. So many companies have their own automated solutions for it, or own custom processes for it in different tools, actually. So you basically can automate it through the Autopilot tool we have, actually, using either a chatbot or a backend automation engine. So this completely, including the approval functionality, can be automated, and it also guides them towards the trainings. It makes sure they take the trainings and they complete it, and then they get the accounts, or either way it goes. So then the other part of managing is also enabling your operations team access to your servers, but in a very controlled manner. This is a big problem. This is a very, very big practical problem in most of the companies. Admins have access to the servers. Operations team does not have access to the servers, but the operations team needs to run something on the servers. So they always have to reach out to the admins, and there is a manual handover actually. And this creates a time, this takes time, errors, and human errors comes in. So we have a very good way of enabling the operations support team entry into the servers in a very controlled manner actually. So the operations support team cannot do anything more than running certain tools or certain reports or certain analysis tools in a very controlled manner. It cannot access anything else on the admins, which generally the admins are afraid of. So the other part of managing is the test automation, right? So without testing, so now many companies are talking about testing automation. This is one big part of your automation side of it. If you want to automate the deployment side of it, you need to have the testing automation, at least a basic sanity test suite and stuff like that. It can be just on the active workspace level, or it can be at the NXCAD level. So we do have a testing automation framework on which you can build your own test cases, or we can build it, and this will help in your regression test cases, and it can be used even for performance tests or also for load testing. This is a Selenium-based framework. It has a tight integration into your quality management system. Even if it is ADO or Jira, it has a tight integration to it, and it updates and creates a test run, and also updates the test results in the quality management system, where you can create your dashboards and everything there actually. It has active workspace, and rack coverage is very less actually. And active workspace and CAD coverage basically. We are primarily focusing on active workspace. This uses a Selenium framework on the back end. So now we talked about server deployments, we talked about client deployments, we talked about getting an entry for operations team into the servers actually, into the application servers. And we also talked about testing automation. The next comes the monitoring part. Monitoring part, many companies have good solutions decently implemented now, and we can tie it up into any of the testing, any of the monitoring framework, or we have our own monitoring framework actually, where you can monitoring the server performance. It's not just the server performance, but also your what is the load on each one of the WARM server, how much memory each one of your TC servers is occupying, and if it goes above 4 GB, and raise an alarm and pick actually. So it's a very very practically driven tool. On the support side, so there's so now we are the whole world is going towards automation in a multifaceted way actually. So there is no reason why L1, even L2 tickets should be manually handled at this day and age. It should be automated, and this is a very, very low-hanging fruit for complete automation. So for example, password resets either into your prod system or your dev system, your QA system, or your change of roles, change of groups. My workflow is stuck, my workflow is not moving, why is it not moving? I'm not able to check in, check out a part. Do I have my license? I'm not getting a license for the GLS module. Teams and licenses, everybody has it, but I don't have a license for the GLS module. So who has reserved it actually? Who's using it? And can you give me the names? I can go query. All these kind of information actually can be completely automated. And we have automated many of these cases. It may not be directly applicable to you. You might have to slightly configure it differently or vary it differently. But all these test cases are ripe for automation. Then comes the L3 issues. L3 issues, it cannot be automatically resolved because the issue might be more complicated. But it can still, what we can actually automatically do is analyze the issue actually, and collect, in worst case, collect the syslog file from the server side, and provide it to the operations team, saying that, hey, this user has reported the problem, and here is the syslog file from this user at that time. You can take it now, analyze it. As well as if he's, and you can even get a small report on what the user has been working on. Hey, the user has modified this particular change object, or he has modified these 10 different objects actually, so you can go and analyze them. and direct users appropriately. So sometimes the issues may be on the client side, which we may not be able to resolve it. So we do have a client extension which can resolve issues on the client side also. But here we can also direct the users, saying that, hey, for this problem, yeah, go ahead, there's a small script on the desktop, run this actually. And then they can run it. Or you can say that, hey, okay, you have to contact such and such group for help, or you raise a help desk with this information, they will solve the problem. We can direct users appropriately actually. So, what we have done is we have actually solved the problems whichever we stated in the earlier stage using a chatbot actually. So chatbot is nothing but, it's just a front end using a conversational platform. So the users, instead of coming and raising a ticket or sticking a bunch of text into a system or clicking buttons, they can come to the chatbot and they can say it in a conversational language what their problem is. Hey, my NX is not starting up, my Team Center password has to be reset, my account is deactivated, can you reactivate my account? So the chatbot will internally convert this into an actionable task, and then it will know what to do with it, or whether it can handle it or it cannot handle it, and it will reply back to the user appropriately. So chatbot is a very good front end, and engineers, there will initially, wherever we implemented it, there is initial reluctance to it, but then once they see the value here in addressing the basic issues, they slowly adapt and go forward with it. The third is basically ask and guide end users. So it will be back on a back and forth format. So when some question is not clear, the bot will then ask them, are you talking about this or this? And then it will go into a directed conversation, which makes the issue resolution much easier. It can also resolve issues on the back end. Not only resolve issues, what happens is if there is an issue and the bot can fix it, it will go back to your ticketing system, whichever it is, Jira or ServiceNow. It will file the ticket, solve the problem, close the ticket, and inform the user, hey, your problem has been solved. And if it is not able to solve it, it will still raise the ticket, put the necessary information in there, and then say that, hey, there will be a this person contacting you actually. The third one is the knowledge gateway, and we'll talk about it in the next slide, I think. Any enterprise has a lot of documented good knowledge, how-to documents, training documents, and things. And we have been trying to crack this problem in multiple ways, and Google and enterprise search was one of the things we are looking at, but it never panned out very well, because there was a lot of noise in the results actually. But with the large language model, ChatGPT came and changed the conversation completely actually. So these large language models are able to comprehend the document, not in a real sense, but using statistics, it's able to comprehend the document and answer questions very well. So as a POC, we tied the chatbot knowledge base into ChatGPT with a bunch of documents, and it was able to answer questions very well actually. So this is a very good thing for all the enterprises actually. They have to look at this purely from a knowledge perspective. We are not using the large language models for the classification problem, which is basically when a user is trying to talk to the chatbot, we need to understand what it is, and it becomes a classification problem. But at that time, for that, we are not using the large language models. But for comprehending the knowledge and responding back to the user, the ChatGPT has worked very well for us. Okay, we are here at thing actually. So last thing about the tool is maintains 100% traceability through audit logs. Everything that anybody user asks, or what the chatbot responds, or the system responds, everything is audited. There is a full cycle automation engine. It can either run on your ticketing system directly, or it can run on the backend of the chatbot, which can take all your tickets and close the tickets which it can automatically, and which it cannot, it will assign to the appropriate people and stuff. It knows, learns, and evolves. So I have to be a bit careful with this statement. It's not an automatic evolution actually. There is a manual intervention there, but it can evolve very well, and there are good hooks and points for it. It seamlessly ties into your issue management system, where you can, it raises the ticket, closes the tickets, and everything actually. And it's also tightly integrated with Team Center at this point actually. So what we are trying to do is we are trying to bring all of these automations into one umbrella, where you can have under one tool, you can actually basically deploy into the server side, manage your client deployments, analyze and problem solve your client deployments, as well as support, basically provide the support and monitor your applications. So with that, I'll stop here and open up for questions. No, it's not. Monitoring side, it's not much different. Actually, it's pretty much the same. What we do is we are monitoring a few other things rather than regular RAM and this one. Okay, so your obviously your secondary processes, your complementary processes, it monitors actually. Auto heal is a slightly complicated problem actually. Yes, we can auto restart it actually, but if auto restart doesn't work, then auto heal goes into a complicated analysis and stuff like that. Yes, it can auto restart. But we have added a couple of small minor things actually. One is basically looking at your tcserver.exe jobs in your server and making sure that when it hits a capacity of 3 GB or 4 GB, raise an alarm actually. And these things any of the monitoring tool can do actually. Yes, and it doesn't add anything more to it than that monitoring actually. I'm not able to hear you, sorry. So this is not a SaaS service. So it is deployed in your environment actually. So everything you do is all yours actually. It's the company owns. So any of the knowledge information you put in or you feed it into the chatbot or you put in your knowledge management system, everything stays with you only. It doesn't come into the cloud, it doesn't go into the public cloud. So the whole application can be implemented on the cloud or in-premise actually. But still it will be your private cloud. So it's not a SaaS service where it will be shared and we are talking about data protection and stuff like that. Absolutely. So yeah, absolutely. ChatGPT there is a lot of IP conversations going on in every company with ChatGPT or any.
Can you repeat the question?
Oh, sorry. The question was, do you want to repeat it? It will be better if you.
Now, considering the ethical and legal complications, and also when you tightly integrate with ChatGPT or any OpenAI, you are exposing your intellectual property. So, and we do see a lot of reluctance from the client, and it's been blocked by everybody else. So, I was just asking, like, how they're considering it.
So yeah, obviously. Yeah. So ChatGPT, there are a lot of conversations going on within companies about the IP production and everything. Actually. So what we have tried is a POC actually, right? And with the ChatGPT, it works pretty decently. And ChatGPT as a service now, which your data is not exposed to the outside world. Your data stays within yourself. So it has such a service actually. And I'm pretty sure ChatGPT is just the beginning of the large language models, right? There's going to be more like LLM models available very soon. And it's going to be available. It's just what we are saying is the LLMs work very well with knowledge base. Until now, the enterprise Google search or any other, we tried quite a few indexing things and quite a few smart indexing, quite a few dictionary-based indexing. It did not work very well actually. There were a lot of noise always in the results. And it was that. But what we feel is that the large language models have sort of solved that problem actually. And whether it's ChatGPT or Bard, Google Bard or any other LLM, it's going to work very well very soon actually. Very soon means in the very immediate future.
So one topic I saw is the PDF stamping. So what about that?
No, it's just that I think you saw that in the monitoring side of it actually. Yeah, we are saying it monitors the. You talk about the complementary processes which runs, right? And PDF stamping is one of the things which every company does actually, or most of the companies does. So we can monitor the PDF stamping and raise an alarm if it's not working and restart it.
So does it look at the content also?
No, not at this time actually. Yeah, no, not at this time.
And on the monitoring side,
sometimes what happens is you have the needed pool of service, right? And they are like service is hung. It's
Yes,
not like,
yes.
right? So how you know whether it's a hung or it's down?
Quite a few things there actually. Again, it's not an easy problem or it's not a direct problem to crack open. But what we have done is you can actually see how long it's open actually, how long the process has been running. And that's not applicable to a TC server.exe process for sure. But a PDF snapping process, absolutely, it should be over in a minute or more than a minute. If it is running for more than 3-4 minutes, it's probably hung actually. And you can set up a higher limit for it, saying that if it's running for more than 10 minutes, it's basically pretty much hung at that point.
It is typing, you are looking at dispatcher, right?
You can, so when we say complementary processes, yes, dispatcher is also one of the ways to run a complementary process, but many companies have their own ways of running complementary processes actually. They don't use, because dispatcher is sort of a slightly heavy solution actually, yes, and for some of the things, dispatcher is very useful actually. It solves the purpose very well.
I don't feel like you have anything very good in marketing as how to monitor your dispatches. See like how much you do starting and then
So you're telling you can go into detail to see how much of your dispatcher is queued up actually. Yeah, we have not done that actually. No, obviously there's one thing we can do for you.
One thing, the main area of concern is the translation happening. Sometimes that takes a lot of time.
Time and things. I agree. Yeah, no, so obviously many of these monitorings, they are not 100% when it initially comes in. You have to put in the effort and fine tune it actually. And you have to improvise it. There is no other go for any of these. So you're basically the logs and looks for errors and obviously. So we have done that actually, but not integrated it here. But yes, we do have. But there actually you have to be very careful about false positives. So a lot of times, see the Team Center reports errors actually, which they're benign errors. So you have to differentiate between them and your real errors actually. Yes, if you can do that, then it will be worthwhile. Yes. The DevOps one, yeah. Sure, actually. Team Center has multiple different types of deployments, right? So one is at a very high level, BMID deployments are there, WAR file deployments for active workspace, and preference changes, your style sheet, your PLM XML import-export file changes, or anything like that. So each one of this, for the DevOps to be completely for the deployment to be automated there, you have to first get your source code under a certain structure actually. And it's a very simple thing, it's not a complicated thing, but you have to abide by that first. And once you abide by that, then the system knows that, hey, if there is a change here, it is actually a preference change, and it has to trigger the preference import. And if it is a change here, it knows that it's a configuration change. And if it's change here, it knows that it's active workspace change. And if it's a here, it's a BMID project comes in and that change comes in. But it's 100% automation is not surely possible. But yes, there are practical problems of database backup, server shutdown, and server bringing back up all your pool managers. We have solved it, but you have to have discussions with your database team, and they might have their own backup process, and so there are things. But it can be very well done, and that too, particularly for the low-hanging fruits like preference changes, configuration strategy changes, and all of that, it can be 100% automated. VMID changes and server-side code changes, and those things, you have to be a little bit more careful, more conversations, but you can automate it. At least I would suggest, if not in the production environment, at least do it in the dev environment, so that your developers are not waiting for it, actually, and you lose time. Developers give you a package to be deployed in the dev environment, and they are waiting for a day, for 2 days to get deployed. So you can reduce that cycle, actually, very well. Sorry? Okay, so we have not tied it into the deployment center yet, actually. The deployment center is more for the BMID and those kind of deployments, actually, yes, but we have not tied it up because we have not taken when we started using deployment center, there were some issues with it, so we stopped. But we will have to integrate with it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Come by the booth if you want.
Yeah, we will.
Oh, sure, absolutely. Come on in. Yeah, I think our time is up. Thank you everyone. And if you have any questions, come to the booth actually.